I was just a broke guy walking dogs to survive until the night I tackled a mugger and accidentally saved a billionaire's life. That's when everything changed. You ever have one of those days where the world just feels like it's sitting on your chest, daring you to take a full breath? Yeah, that was pretty much every day for me. Name's Kyle. I was 24, broke, and just talented enough at everything to be employable, but not excellent enough at anything to keep a job longer than a couple months. You could call it a gift. Or a curse. Depending on the week. At the time, I was bouncing between 3 jobs. The first was unloading pallets at a warehouse at 5 in the morning, thankless, backbreaking stuff with a rotating cast of guys who didn't talk much and always smelled like old cigarettes and Red Bull. The second was dog walking in the afternoons for a lady named Gloria who paid well but had 8 Pomeranians that barked like demons. The third was, well, I did a little freelance IT work for some local businesses, but it was mostly turning stuff off and back on again. People thought I was a genius. Anyway, the story isn't about my jobs. It's about one night that changed my whole damn life. I just finished walking the dogs, one of them bit me that day, little jerk, and I was heading back to my apartment. It wasn't a great neighborhood, but it was all I could afford. Cracked sidewalks, flickering street lamps, the occasional drunk yelling at a mailbox. I kept my head down and moved fast. Then I heard it shouting. Not the usual kind. This was sharp, panicked, coming from up the block. I slowed, heart thudding a little harder. Part of me wanted to keep walking. Mind my business. But something pulled me forward. Curiosity? Stupidity? Maybe both. When I rounded the corner, I saw them. 2 guys, dressed in all black, ski masks and everything, were pushing some old man up against a brick wall. One had a knife. The other was rifling through the guy's coat. The old man was trying to talk, hands up, voice shaking. And I did something absolutely stupid. I yelled, "Hey, back the hell off." I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the way the old guy looked. Helpless. Shocked. Maybe it was just the adrenaline kicking in. But I charged. One of the guys turned and for half a second we locked eyes. He didn't expect anyone to get involved. That hesitation was all I needed. I slammed into him hard like a linebacker. We both hit the ground. The other guy bolted. Now, I'm not a fighter. Not really. But I flailed like my life depended on it, and maybe it did. Got a few good hits in, and somehow I came out on top. Guy scrambled to his feet and ran, cursing me out. I stood there, chest heaving, fists shaking. The old man was still against the wall, looking at me like I was either a miracle or a complete idiot. Maybe both. You okay? I asked, trying to catch my breath. He nodded slowly, brushing off his coat. It was expensive. Like really expensive. Cashmere or something. His silver hair was neat, even after the scuffle, and his shoes probably cost more than my rent. Thanks to you, he said, his voice calm but edged with something else, authority, maybe. You just saved my life. I shrugged, suddenly aware of how ridiculous I must have looked, sweaty, bruised, smelling like dog. Yeah, well, I figured someone had to. He stepped closer, squinting at me. What's your name? Kyle? Kyle Mercer. He nodded once, then held out a hand. I'm Richard Maddox. The name didn't click right away. Not until I got back home and looked him up. Richard Maddox wasn't just some old guy in a nice coat. He was the CEO of Maddox Group International. A multi-billionaire. One of the top 10 most powerful men in the city. And I just tackled a mugger to save his life. I didn't sleep much that night. I mean, how could I? I kept thinking about it over and over again. The knife. The scuffle. The moment I stood over that guy and he ran off into the shadows like a coward. Then Richard Maddox's face, calm like he'd seen this kind of thing before. Probably had. Maybe from a limo window though. Not up close. When I got back to my place, I Googled him. Turns out the guy wasn't just rich, he was stupid rich. Owned real estate across the country. Invested in half the startups in Silicon Valley. Had his own line of designer whiskey. And apparently, according to some gossip blog, dated a supermodel for exactly 39 days last year before ghosting her during Fashion Week. My phone buzzed at 8:07 the next morning. I thought it was Gloria calling to yell at me because one of the Poms had peed on her rug again. But the number was weird. Area code I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. Then, a minute later, a text came through. Mr. Maddox would like to meet with you. Please respond with your availability. I stared at it for a second. Was this real? Was this how billionaires did things? They just had people who texted for them. I responded something like, I'm free after 3 today. I walk dogs in the morning. Real smooth. Real professional. I'm sure they were impressed. An hour later, I got a second text. A car will pick you up at 3:15. Please be ready. Dress appropriately. So naturally, I spent the next few hours digging through my closet like a madman. I owned exactly one blazer. which I'd worn to my cousin's wedding, and it still had beer stains on the sleeve. I Febrezed it and prayed for the best. At exactly 3:15, a black SUV pulled up to the curb outside my building. Tinted windows, driver in a suit, the kind of car you expect secret agents or kidnappers to roll up in. "You Kyle?" the guy asked, stepping out. "Yeah," I said, suddenly wishing I'd shaved. He opened the back door like I was someone important. Like I mattered. I slid in. The car smelled like leather and mint. The city passed in a blur, buildings, street signs, people. All of it felt quieter, like I was in a different world already. We pulled up to this tower, Maddox Tower, I later found out. 47 stories of glass, steel, and money. The kind of place you walk past and assume you'll never see the inside of unless you're delivering food or fixing a copy machine. Inside, it was like a luxury hotel. Marble floors, a chandelier bigger than my apartment, people in suits moving fast, holding tablets like weapons. I stuck out like a cracked sidewalk in Beverly Hills. But nobody said anything. They just nodded, like I belonged there. An assistant, young, sharp, dressed like she walked straight out of a magazine ad for very expensive cologne, led me to the top floor. We passed doors made of thick glass, offices full of art I didn't understand, and a conference room with a skyline view that made me feel like I was floating. Then she opened a door. There he was, Richard Maddox. Same guy from the alley, but different now. Less vulnerable. More composed. He stood behind a sleek desk, hands folded, eyes sharp. "Kyle," he said, as if we were old friends. "Come in." I stepped inside, heart thudding. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a chair across from him. I sat. "I've had a lot of time to think about what happened yesterday," he said slowly, measuring his words like they cost money. "And I've come to a decision." I swallowed. "Okay. You saved my life. And I don't believe in coincidence." He leaned back, watching me like a man reading a poker hand. "I want to offer you a job." My heart stuttered. "A job?" "Yes," he said. "Not charity. Not a handout. An opportunity." "What kind of opportunity?" I asked, trying not to sound too eager. He smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was the kind of smile that said, "This is just the beginning. One that might change everything for you," he said. "If you're ready." You ever been in a situation where your brain's screaming say something smart, but your mouth just decides to freeze? That was me, sitting across from Richard Maddox while he talked about opportunities and life-changing jobs like we were haggling over a sandwich. "What kind of job are we talking about?" I asked finally. Maddox didn't answer right away. He stood, walked over to a massive window that overlooked the city, hands clasped behind his back like a chess master. The skyline glowed, afternoon sun hitting the glass towers like gold-plated blades. "I built all this," he said quietly. "From nothing. Started with one truck and a loan I could barely afford. Worked 60-hour weeks while everyone else drank beer and watched football." I didn't say anything. I wasn't sure if he was expecting a reply or just filling the air with power move monologue. He turned back around. "I see a little of that same grit in you, Kyle. Most people would have walked away, pretended they didn't see anything. But you ran toward danger. You acted." I shifted in my seat. "I didn't really think. I just did it." "Exactly," he said, eyes locking onto mine. "Instinct. And that's what I need right now. Someone who can move fast. Adapt. Someone who doesn't already think like the rest of this damn industry." I blinked. "Industry?" He gave a small, amused nod. "Let me be clear. I'm not offering you an office job. No cubicle, no coffee machine gossip, no mind-numbing spreadsheets. This is different. I need someone outside the mold. Someone I can trust." Okay, now this was starting to sound like either the best thing that ever happened to me, or the first 5 minutes of a Netflix crime doc. "And you think I'm that guy?" I asked. "I do," he said simply. "But that's not enough." He picked up a manila folder from his desk and slid it across to me. I opened it. Inside were photos, grainy, black and white, clearly taken from a distance. One of them showed two men shaking hands in what looked like an underground parking garage. The other was of a briefcase exchange. "What is this?" I asked, heartbeat ratcheting up. "That," he said, "is where your job starts." I stared at him. He sat back down, elbows on the desk, fingers steepled. There are people within my company, people I once trusted, who are working against me, leaking information, undermining deals. I need someone who can be my eyes and ears without being noticed. I raised an eyebrow. Like, corporate spy stuff? He didn't flinch. Call it what you want. All I know is, if I don't get ahead of this, everything I've built will burn. I let out a breath. Why me, though? I mean, come on, man. I walk dogs. He actually chuckled at that. Exactly. Nobody will suspect you. You're invisible in the best possible way. I wasn't sure whether to be flattered or insulted. Here's the deal, he said. I'll pay you $5,000 a week to start. You'll have access to everything you need, equipment, contacts, cover stories. You'll report only to me. No one else. Ever. My stomach flipped. $5,000 a week. That was more than I made in 3 months doing all my jobs combined. It would cover rent, food, debt, everything. It would change my entire world. But, he added, voice hardening, once you're in, you're in. No backing out. No screw-ups. I won't ask you to do anything illegal, but let's just say, it'll get uncomfortable sometimes. I leaned back in the chair, mind racing. Part of me wanted to jump out the window and run. Another part, it was already hooked. And maybe it was the tiredness. Maybe it was the years of scraping by. Or maybe it was that little voice inside that said, what if this is it? What if this is the moment everything turns around? I nodded slowly. Okay, I said. I'm in. Maddox smiled, that sharp, calculating smile again. Good. We start tomorrow. When I showed up the next morning, the security guard in the lobby already had my name on a list. That's when it hit me. I was in. Really in. They gave me a sleek black ID badge with a silver stripe down the middle. No title. Just K. Mercer and a tiny chip embedded in the corner. Felt like something out of a sci-fi movie. When I scanned it at the elevator, it took me to a floor that wasn't even labeled, just a silent ping. And the doors slid open to a whole different world. The hallway was darker than the rest of the building. Quieter. The walls weren't glass. They were matte black, with recessed lighting that glowed like moonlight. A man was already waiting. Tall, thin, early 40s, with a clean-shaven face and ice-blue eyes that didn't blink nearly enough. You're Kyle, he said, like a statement, not a question. Yeah, I said. He held out a hand. Elliot, I'll be your handler. Handler? What was I, a spy dog? We walked down the hall into a room that looked like it belonged to the CIA. Screens lined one wall. Maps, surveillance feeds, data charts I didn't understand. Elliot sat me at a desk, handed me a slim tablet, and tapped the screen. Welcome to your first assignment, he said. It was a profile. Name, Nolan Burke. Maddox employee. Mid-level management in logistics. Clean record. Wife. Kid. But there were notes. Red flags. High-volume data transfers late at night. Unusual access requests. Anonymous emails traced back to his IP. We think he's feeding sensitive information to an outside competitor, Elliot said. We don't have proof yet, but he's sloppy. And if he is the leak, we need to know who he's working with. So what do? I asked, thumbing through the digital file like I had a clue what I was doing. You observe. Listen. Blend in. He handed me an access card for the logistics floor. Starting today, you work under Burke. You're a junior analyst, temp hire from a staffing firm. You're quiet, reliable, forgettable. Watch what he does, who he talks to, what he opens. Copy his computer access logs when you get the chance. Don't confront him. Don't improvise. Just gather intel. It was surreal. Yesterday I was feeding kibble to a chihuahua with an attitude problem. Today I was tailing a guy inside a billion-dollar company, trying to uncover corporate espionage. I changed in the locker room into a clean shirt and slacks that had been provided in my size. Don't ask me how they knew. The logistics floor was bright, loud, and buzzing with movement. People with headsets, inventory dashboards, real-time maps tracking shipments across the country. Burke spotted me right away. Tall, square shoulders, glasses that made him look friendlier than he probably was. He gave me a tight smile and a handshake that said, I don't really care who you are. Just don't screw up. You're the new temp, Kyle? Yeah, I said, keeping my voice casual. You've got some experience in systems management? I nodded. Mostly small scale. Inventory and routing software. Nothing this complex. Good. You're honest. Most of these temps oversell themselves. He didn't seem suspicious. If anything, he looked exhausted. Overworked. Distracted. I was given a desk a few spots down from him. Nothing special, just a screen, a login, and a rotating to-do list of basic tasks. I started clicking through, pretending to struggle just enough to be believable. Meanwhile, I kept my eyes on Burke. He was meticulous. Checked things twice. Spoke quietly on the phone. Never raised his voice. But he didn't do anything weird at first. Just worked. Focused. Efficient. Until 3:17 p.m. He got up from his desk and walked toward the copy room, carrying a small USB drive. Not unusual unless you knew the company policy banned all portable storage devices. Big red flag. I waited 30 seconds, then followed. The copy room was empty, door half open. I could hear the faint whir of a computer booting up. I stepped closer. Slowly, carefully. Through the glass slats, I saw him. Plugging in the drive, eyes scanning the screen, fingers typing fast. Then a faint ding. An alert popped on my screen. A message from Elliot. Get out. Now. My heart jumped into my throat. He's on alert. Someone tipped him off. We don't know who. Abort. I backed away, heart pounding, trying not to make a sound. Just before I reached the hallway, Burke turned. And for a split second, our eyes met. I don't know if you've ever locked eyes with someone who knows you've seen something you weren't supposed to see. But the moment Burke spotted me outside that copy room, my stomach turned to stone. He didn't say anything, just stared. Then, calmly, he closed the laptop and slipped the USB drive into his pocket. Walked out like nothing had happened. Kyle, right? He said, as if we were just running into each other on the way to the break room. Yeah, I muttered. Just, looking for toner. Smooth. Really nailed it. Not in there, he said, gesturing down the hall. Supply closets around the corner. And then he just walked away. No accusation. No outburst. Nothing. Just a half smile and those unreadable eyes. I stood there for a full minute, pulse hammering behind my eyes. I'd been doing this, whatever this was, for less than a day and I'd already blown it. Great start, Kyle. I slipped back to my desk, hands shaking just enough to make typing a challenge. Sent a message to Elliot through the secure channel. He saw me. Elliot replied fast. Stay calm. Stay normal. Do not deviate. He won't move unless he's sure. We're pulling security footage now. I finished out the workday like a zombie, answering emails, reviewing logistics files, pretending to be way more interested in shipping analytics than any human should ever be. When 5 o'clock hit, I packed up and walked out like everyone else. But instead of heading home, I was rerouted to a parking garage 4 blocks away, where Elliot met me in a nondescript gray sedan. You froze, he said the moment I got in. Yeah, well, I shot back. It's not every day I almost get murdered in a copy room. He won't move right away. He's paranoid, but not reckless. He'll want to confirm he's being watched. That buys us a little time. Time for what? To pull every digital thread he's ever touched. Back at the secure floor in Maddox Tower, Elliot showed me the footage. It wasn't conclusive, just a blurred side angle of Burke using the computer. Maddox's internal policy had huge blind spots in common areas. Ironically, for privacy. Probably also to protect people like Burke from being caught. He's good, Elliot muttered. Sloppy, but not stupid. I sat back. So what now? We just wait. Elliot looked at me, serious now. No, we put pressure on him. The next day, things got weird. Burke showed up later than usual. No briefcase, no coffee cup, just his phone and that quiet, mechanical energy, turned up a notch. He barely acknowledged me. Not suspiciously so, just cold, controlled. At lunch, he didn't leave the building. Just stayed in his office, blinds down. I noticed him talking to a guy from legal, low tones, too quiet to hear. After that, he made a series of calls. One of them had me leaning forward in my chair, because he used the word redundancy, twice. Then later that afternoon, the system glitched. Just for a second. All the screens in the office froze, blinked to black, then rebooted. Coincidence? Maybe. But Elliot's voice came through my earpiece right after. We've got a breach. Stay put. Do not go to the elevators. My heart dropped. Internal networks being scraped. Someone's trying to wipe logs. This is active. He's moving. I looked over at Burke's desk. Empty. Then I heard it. A clack. Like a hard drive being yanked. I turned. There he was, Burke. Rushing toward the stairwell with a laptop and a black bag. I didn't think. I ran. Burke! I shouted. He didn't stop. I chased him down the stairwell. Concrete steps pounding under my boots. The air sharp with adrenaline. He was fast for a guy pushing 40, but I was faster. 2 flights down, I caught him. Grabbed his arm. He swung the laptop bag hard into my chest and sent me sprawling. I slammed against the railing. Air knocked clean out of me. Then he ran again. I struggled to my feet, lungs burning, legs heavy, and gave chase. But by the time I hit the lobby, he was gone. Elliot picked me up minutes later in the alley behind the building. He's burned, he said, gripping the steering wheel tight. But it's too late. The data's out. He sent something. We don't know what yet. I stared out the window, heart still jackhammering. I screwed it up. No, Elliot said, voice flat. You did what you could. You kept eyes on him. That's more than most could have done. Then, after a long silence, Maddox wants to see you. The elevator ride up to the top floor felt different this time. Heavier. Like the air was thicker the higher we climbed. I kept thinking about Burke, how fast he moved, how he slipped through her fingers. And what Maddox was going to say when I walked through that door. The last time we spoke, he offered me a new life. Now, I wasn't sure I was going to walk out with one. The doors opened. The office was empty, quiet. Except for Maddox, standing by the window again, silhouetted in late-day sun like some corporate god surveying his kingdom. Kyle, he said, without turning. Come in. I stepped forward. He didn't offer me a seat this time. You were supposed to keep him close, he said. Still calm. Still measured. You were in the building. You were watching him. And yet he walked out with enough data to damage us for months. I swallowed hard. He moved fast. I tried to it. I don't need excuses. His voice cut like glass. Not loud. Just sharp. You're new. I knew there'd be mistakes. But I also believed you had the instincts to adapt. He finally turned to face me. Eyes hard. Mouth flat. Now I need to know. Right here. Right now. Are you in this? Or are you just another scared kid playing hero? I chased him, I said. I tracked him for days. I stuck my neck out. I've risked more in the last week than in the last 5 years of my life. Maddox stepped closer. Not threatening. Just intense. Then prove it. He motioned to the wall. A panel slid open, revealing a screen. Elliot's face appeared serious as ever. We've got a lead, Elliot said. Burke wasn't working alone. There's a network, tight-knit, encrypted channels, offshore accounts. We pulled metadata from the office Wi-Fi Burke used during the breach. There's one alias that pops up over and over again, Valen. Maddox walked behind his desk and tapped a tablet. A file opened. Grainy photos, timestamps, satellite maps. A woman's face, early 30s, sharp jawline, short black hair. Tactical. Clean. Cold. She's ex-intelligence, Maddox said. Russian. Romanian. Maybe both. Operates under multiple identities. Now she's a ghost. But she's real. And she's on U.S. soil. I stepped closer. You want me to find her? No, Maddox said. I want you to approach her. My mouth went dry. That sounds like a good way to get shot. That's why I'm not sending one of my suits, he said. She doesn't trust insiders. She watches for patterns. You? You're new. You're messy. You're not on anyone's radar yet. And what exactly do you want me to say to her? Hi, I'm the guy who helped blow your operation. You don't blow your cover. You don't spook her. You earn her attention. Then her trust. Find out what she knows. Who she works for. And if you can't. He let that sentence hang. Didn't need to finish it. I stared at the screen at this woman, Valen, who looked like she could kill me 6 ways with a shoelace. And I felt that pull again. That reckless, quiet voice that said, what if this is what you're meant for? I could have said no. Could have walked out, gone back to my dog walking gig, maybe picked up more warehouse shifts. Told myself I gave it a shot and cut my losses. But then Maddox slid something across the desk. A check. $10,000. Just for accepting the assignment. And under it, my name on a new ID badge. But this one was different. No chip. Just a black stripe across the front. And a single word in silver foil. Operative. This is the line, Kyle, Maddox said. You cross it, there's no going back. I took a breath. Then I picked up the badge. They flew me out that night. No commercial ticket. No luggage. No questions asked. Just a private jet, 3 hours of silence, and a man named Shaw who handed me a burner phone and a sleek leather dossier halfway through the flight. Read it twice. Burn it. Inside was everything they had on Valen. She was in Miami now using the name Sofia Dravic, posing as a luxury real estate agent, living in a waterfront condo that didn't technically exist in any public record. She had 2 known associates. 1 dead, 1 missing. The rest? Blank space. By the time we landed, I'd memorized the file. Every photo, every address, every bad feeling in my gut. I got a cover identity. Evan Cross. Up-and-coming investor looking to develop high-end condos. I had fake bank statements, a backstopped portfolio, and a vague European accent I couldn't quite stick the landing on. Good enough to get in the door. It took 3 days. 3 days of appointments, polite conversations, and near misses. I saw her twice from a distance, once at a restaurant, once in the building lobby. She moved like smoke. Every step measured. Every smile calculated. On the 4th day, she invited me to view a property. Secluded. Overlooking the ocean. All glass and marble and shadows. She opened the door herself. "Mr. Cross," she said, voice like silk pulled tight over steel. "I've been curious." "Likewise," I replied, steady as I could manage. We walked the house. Talked about views, construction costs, fake developer stuff I barely understood. But she didn't care about the small talk. Not really. She was watching me, measuring. After 20 minutes, she stopped in the living room, crossed her arms, and tilted her head. "You're not an investor," she said. I froze. "Excuse me? You don't blink enough when you talk numbers. And you parked on the west side of the property. Contractors never do that. You're not here to buy anything." She stepped closer, just enough to feel the tension. "So, who sent you?" I had 2 options. Or gamble. "I'm here to stop what's coming," I said. "To stop Maddox. Or you. Or both. I honestly haven't figured that part out yet." Silence. Then she laughed. Not loud. Just this quiet, amused thing. Like I was a puppy trying to play chess. "You're not what I expected. Everyone keeps saying that," I muttered. She walked to the window, looking out over the water. "I didn't steal from Maddox," she said. "Burke did. But he didn't do it for me. He did it to expose him." I stepped forward. "Expose him for what?" "For building something no one understands. Not even you. You think you're working for a visionary. A self-made man." She turned, eyes burning. "But Maddox isn't building a company anymore. He's building control. Buying data, votes, loyalty. From people you'll never see on TV. When the time comes, he won't need elections. He won't need law. He'll just flip a switch." "You're lying," I said, but it didn't come out strong. Because part of me believed her. She stepped closer again, voice low. "This was never about business. It was always about power. And now you have to decide. Which side are you really on?" I stood there, heart pounding, thinking about Elliot, about the office, the dark hallways and encrypted channels, about Maddox, sliding that badge across the desk, knowing exactly what he was pulling me into, about who I was before all of this, and who I was now. Finally, I spoke. "If you're right, then we both want the same thing." She watched me, really watched me, then nodded once. "Then let's burn it down." 2 weeks later, I disappeared. No more Kyle Mercer. No more Evan Cross. Just an unlisted name on a terminal in Zurich, a voice on encrypted lines, and a new mission that had nothing to do with chasing rent money. I used to think life changed in big moments. But sometimes, it starts with a decision you don't even realize you're making. A detour. A late night. A stranger in trouble. Sometimes you take a swing at a guy in an alley, and the next thing you know, you're part of a war you never knew existed. But now, I'm ready. Let's see how deep this rabbit hole goes.